We talked about the two groups of the people. One is Valaris and the another one is the Vendors. So we talked about the Vendors, three Vendors, Vendors. Now we are moving on to the Valaris. Valaris, the another term, the English term of the Valaris is the chieftains. Apart from the Vendors, there were Valaris and numerous chieftains who occupied territories on the margin of the Movender. The Valaris were the 7 chiefs. They are known as the 7 known as the Pari, Kari, Ori, Nali, Pagan, Ai and Adaiman. When you talk about the Sangam poems, write extensively about the generosity of these Valaris, of the 7 chieftains. These chieftains had intimate relations with the poets of their time, and they were known for their large-heartedness. These chieftains also had alliance with one or the other of the Movender and helped them in their battles against the other vendors. And as the next topic, we are going to talk about the society in Sangam age. Many of the communities of the Iron Age society were organized as the tribes, and some of them were chiefdoms. There is two things, chieftains, we talked about the Valaris. Another one we are called as a chiefdom society. The Sangami society was a society in a transition from the tribal community ruled by the chief to a large kingdom ruled by a king. So the society, Sangami society, was two things. One is community ruled by the chieftains under the chief. Another one is a large kingdom ruled by a king. So these are the two different societies existed. The composition of the society, a social stratification had begun to take root in Tamil society by the Sangam times. There were several clan-based communities, including groups such as Panar, Patavar, Ayanar, Ulavar, Kanavar, Vetuvar, Maravar. We know it based on these types of groups, the caste system developed, various groups developed. Of these, the Vendors and the chiefs and their associates formed the higher social group. So among all these groups, these two, the Vendors and the chiefs, they are called as the higher social groups. There were priests who were known as Antanars. So we could talk about the priests who are doing the rituals in the temples. There were also artisan groups specializing in pottery and blacksmith and various other works. Now we have to learn a particular concept. The caste system we find in North India did not take root in Tamil country, as the social groups were divided into 5 situational types, that is the Tamil, and related occupational pattern. So whatever we talked about, these groups are occupational pattern, and they did not have the clans of the, we talk about the caste system that is prevalent in the northern part of India. So-called the development of agriculture and the pastoral ways of life might have harmed the ecosystem and the naturally available forest and the wild animals. It is possible that some of the hunter and gatherers might have been pushed to the forest areas, and few might have taken up the occupation of manual laborers. They are used as the workers. The development of agriculture in the wetland region depended on the use of certain groups of people as the laborers. So when the people moved on to the forest and various places, they started occupying the land. Some people owned the land, some people were used as the laborers. That's what they are explaining here, people as the laborers. So we talked about the society in the Sangam age. Now we have to know something about a group of people called women. What was the importance of women in this Sangam age? Women are frequently referred to in Tamil texts as the mothers, heroines, foster mothers. Sometimes friendly women from Parner families, dancers, poets, and the royal women were all portrayed in the Sangam literature. And there are also references to the women from all 5 echo zones. For example, Venyakyathyar is identified as a poetess from the village of Veni. There are references to women protecting, that is a thinai field from birds, and Umarar Kula women selling the salt, showing that women were involved in primary protection. There are also some instances where women prefer to die along with their husbands also occurred in the literature of the times. We know it is called as Sati. We are going to move on to the next topic, the economy of the Tamil society, the Tamil people. The economy was mixed as elaborated in the Thinai concept. People practiced various activities like agriculture, pastoralism, trade, and money exchange, hunting, gathering, and fishing, depending upon the echo zones where the landmark, where the people were sheltered, where the people were living. When you talk about the first one, agriculture and the production, agriculture was one of the main sources of subsistence. Crops like paddy, sugar cane, millets were cultivated, whereas the paddy is the wet agriculture, wet land production, whereas millet is a dry land production. There are varieties of rice which were cultivated and which are mentioned in the various literature. The varieties of rice such as senal, that is a red rice, venal, that is a white rice, and ivanal, a type of rice, are mentioned in the literature. Rice grains were found in burial urns and excavation in Adichanallur and Purundal. People in the forest adopted punam, or the shifting cultivation. We learned in the agriculture 5 types of agriculture, in that one of them is a shifting agriculture. So they practice this method of shifting cultivation. Pastoralism, grazing, and we are rearing the cattle. Pastoralism, a nomadic people earning livelihood by rearing cattle, sheep, and goat. We also talk about the industries and the crafts of the Sangam age. The craft production and the craft specialization were important aspect of urbanization in Sangam age. There were professional groups that produced various commodities, goods, things. A system of production of commodities is called industry. They also involved in the pottery making. Pottery was practiced in many settlements. People used pottery produced by Kamal Chaiko, that is a potters, in their daily activities, and so they were made in the large number. They also made like a black ware, russet coated painted ware, black and red ware potteries were the different types of pottery used. They were also very good in the iron smelting industry. Iron manufacturing was the important artisanal activities of them. Iron smelting was undertaken in the traditional furnaces, and such furnaces with terracotta pipes and a raw ore have been found in many archaeological sites. Even today it is being found. For instance, evidence of iron smelting has been found in Kodumanal and Guttur. We also see all this in the Sangam literature, which speaks of blacksmiths and their tools and activities. It also talks about the iron implements were required for agriculture and warfare. In agriculture, they use a plow and various instruments. At the same time, in the warfare, swords, daggers, and spears, which are also used and made up of these iron melting industries. The next to talk about is the stone ornaments to decorate themselves, to adorn themselves. They also used various ornaments, such as Sangam age people adorned themselves with a variety of ornaments, jewels, while the poor wore ornaments made of clay, terracotta, iron, leaves and flowers. The rich wore jewelry made up of precious stones, copper and gold. So the stone ornaments and various very wealthy jewels were used as decorating themselves. Among the first one, we are going to talk about the gold jewelry. Gold ornaments were well known in this period of Sangam age. Gold coins from the Roman was used to make jewelry. For this, the evidence of gold smelting has been found at Pattanam in Kerala. Gold ornaments have been unearthed at the megalithic sites of Sutukeni, Adichanallur and Kodumanal, and towns of Arikamedu, Keeladi and Pattanam and various other places. They also use the glass beads. Today we have the Udraksha Mala. So like this, the beads were used made up of glass. The presence of glass beads at the sites revealed that the people of Sangam age knew how to make glass beads. Glass materials, that is silica, was melted in the furnace and drawn into a long tubes which were then cut into a small beads. Glass beads came in various shapes and colors, mixture of color and various designs they made up of. They were found in Arikamedu and near Kudalur. They show the evidence of glass beads industry also. It is possible that people who could not afford precious stones that we learned earlier use glass beads instead. They also use the pearl fishery and shell bangles. The Pamban coast is a famous pearl fishery. A pearl has been discovered in recently excavated Keeladi site. Shell bangles were very common in Sangam age. The Parthavars collected conch shells from the Pamban island, which were cut and crafted into bangles by artisans. Whole shells as well as fragments, a little piece of bangles have been found at many sites. And it is also mentioned in Sangam literature, which also describes women wearing shell bangles. We also have various other aspects like textiles, wearing clothes, making of clothes. Textile production was another important occupation of these Sangam people. Evidence of this spindle, holes and pieces of clothes have been found at Kodumanal. Literature too refers to these clothes called Kalingam and other fine varieties of textiles. One of these, the Periplus, also mentions the spindle holes were used for making thread from cotton. When we talk about all these, the textiles, we talked about the coins and all that. So we have to know a little bit about the exchange, trade, merchants and the trade routes of these people to different countries. We saw already the primary production of grains, cattle wealth and various commodities. These goods were not produced by everybody and were not produced in all settlements. Resources and commodities were not available in all regions. For example, the hill region did not have fish or salt, and the coastal region could not produce paddy. Therefore, trade and exchange was important for people to have access to different commodities, different things, different goods. This system was known as the barter system, exchange of goods for goods. In this, the traders were very much involved. We are going to talk about the traders. The term Vanigan, Nigama, that is a guild, appeared in Tamil Brahmi inscription. There were different types of merchants: gold merchants, cloth merchants, salt merchants. The salt merchants were called Umanars, and they traveled in bulk and they traveled in bullock carts along with their families. So they moved from one place to another place along with their families. So that is what they are talking about, the salt merchants. For trading purpose, what was the major means of transport? Bullock carts and animals were used to transport goods by land. Trade routes linked the various towns of Tamilagam. And also we talk about various types of watercraft and sea-going vessels such as Kalam, Pahari, Odam, Thoni, Teppam and Navai are also mentioned in the Tamil literature. These were the means, so on land at the same time water. So these are the means of the transport. We also talked about the goods were exchanged goods for goods, that we know it, barter. And there also was the invention or the use of coins. Barter was a primary mode of exchange. For instance, rice was exchanged for fish, salt was exchanged with the rice, and various other things. Here, salt was a precious, and a handful of it would fetch an equal amount of rice. The extensive availability of coin hordes of the Sangam age of Cheras, Cholas and Pandyas and Malayaman indicates that they were used widely. Now we are going to talk about, in this aspect, Tamilagam and the overseas interaction, how Tamil Nadu was interacted with various other countries. Tamil country had connections with the countries overseas, both in the east and as well as in the west. Roman ships used monsoon winds to cross the western seas or the Arabian Sea to connect Tamilagam with the western world. The spices including pepper, ivory and precious stones were exported to various other countries of this west. Metal including gold, silver and copper and precious stones were imported.
Some of the other topics which we are going to talk in this lesson are the emergence of towns and ports of the Tamil people, the faith and belief system of the people, and the last one is the fine arts. When you talk about the emergence of towns and ports, the Sangam age saw the first urbanization in Tamilagam. Cities like, so many other places developed and they had bricks buildings, roof tiles, ring wells, plant towns and streets and storehouses. So all these they developed more and more. The towns worked as the ports and artisanal centers. The places like Arikamedu, Kaveri, Pumpattinam, Alagankulam and Kodkai on the east coast and the Pattanam in Kerala were both centers. Like Kanchipuram, Orayur, Karur, Madurai and Kodumanal were the inland trade centers. They played a major role in transporting goods from one place to another place, for exchanging goods, transportation, for all this. They were in the inland centers. Many goods and commodities were produced in these centers and were exported to various regions and various countries. Other. When you talk about the faith and belief system, like the diverse nature of the society we have learned about and the economy, the belief system of the Sangam age was also a diverse, different. It consisted of animism, ancestor worship, hero worship, worship of several deities. In Tolkappiyam it lists the presiding deities of Kurunji, Mullai, Marudam, Neithal and Palai landscapes as Murugan, Thirumal, Indiran, Varunan and Kottravai, which means Kurunji, Murugan, Mullai, Thirumal, Marudam, Indiran, Neithal, Varunan, Palai, Kottravai respectively. However, the people also worship natural force and dead heroes, ancestors. The force of Anangu is mentioned in the literature, which indicates the prevalence of animistic belief. We also learn in the literature and various other sources, Jainism and Buddhism were practiced in various forms of worship. And to talk about the last one, fine arts. Various art forms existed in the Sangam age, like performance of ritual dances called Veriatal are referred to in the literature. We also talk about the composition of poems, playing of musical instruments, dancing were also known. People took care of their appearance, and the evidence of this antimony rods, that is a coal stick made up of a copper, has been found in archaeological sites. What is these coal sticks? They were used for women for decorating their eyebrows. So all these they were very much interested. They used it a lot. These are the various other aspects of the people we can talk about. So to come to the end of the lesson, the first one we talk about what are the sources through which we can learn about our Tamil culture and the society. The next part we learned about the Sangam age in particular. In Sangam age we talked about the society, we talked about the polity, order, method of ruling, how the people were ruled. Then we talked about the different aspects, how our Tamil people had a relation with the foreign countries, what are the things that they use, like decorating ornaments, vessels, pottery, jewelry, all these aspects we talked about. At last we came about our own, the chieftains and the vendors. That's the Valaris and vendors. Vendors we talked about the three kings, Chera, Chola and Pandyas. And Valaris, who are known as the chieftains, we talked about them. And at the last, we talked about how these towns and ports developed, the faith and belief of the people, how it is known. And the last one we talked about what are the other things that they used for developing themselves, entertaining themselves by various activities. Thank you.